Did you know you have the power to change your life? It all depends on your beliefs. If you have limiting beliefs, you limit yourself. I'm Becky Beach, and I'm here to help you overcome your limiting beliefs so you can design your dream life. This is the Becky Beach Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Becky Beach Show. I'm Becky Beach, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to build rapport with your audience. The reason you want to build rapport with your audience is because when someone likes you, they tend to trust you, and when they trust you, they'll part with their money. So it's really important that you build rapport. There are three main types of people. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And if they're kinesthetic, they process how they feel. So they tend to talk a lot slower. And then there's people that are auditory and they process how they hear. And they talk at a moderate pace. There's also people that are visual, so they process what they see. So if you incorporate those types of people in your messaging, then you'll be really successful. For instance, if you're emailing somebody, like emailing your list, you would say, how does this make you hear, feel, and see? You say that, and then you'll get people to respond back with you that are different, with whether they're kinesthetic, auditory, or visual, and you'll be able to see, what or hear. Because I'm visual, so I always say how you will be able to see. That's why I say. But if someone's kinesthetic, they'll usually use words like feel, and if someone's auditory, they usually use hear when they talk. Like I hear that. That's really a great idea, or I feel that's a great idea if they're kinesthetic, or I see that's a really great idea. So if you're visual, so I'm a visual person, so I tend to talk really fast, and sometimes I have trouble keeping up with my mouth, and that makes me stutter. So the way I've overcome stuttering is I'll put an O before I speak, and so sometimes I'll say my name's Becky, because if I say Becky when I stutter, then it'll come out looking look real embarrassed. So usually we'll say Becky, and one time somebody said, your name's Becky. And I was getting my nails done, and I looked at this Asian lady. I think she was Vietnamese, and she said, your name's Becky. And I said, no, it's Becky. Because I say, I didn't give her the whole story, but that's just how I overcame my stuttering. Because I'm a very visual person, and I think in images. And it makes me speak really, really fast. And if you may be auditory or kinesthetic, if you're auditory, you speak, kind of a moderate pace. You don't speak very fast, kind of in between. And you have to process how you're hearing something and listening to something. And if you're kinesthetic, you tend to talk even slower. You tend to process how you feel, so it takes a lot longer for you to get your thoughts out because you're trying to think about how you feel about what you're hearing. So those are the three main ways to talk to people. And you should also build rapport by catering to those people. So if you're trying to sell to somebody that's visual, you should, use words like see, like that. And if you're trying to, sell to someone that's auditory, you would say, well, how does that sound? Like how do you hear about what I'm saying? And then if you're trying to sell to someone that's kinesthetic, well, how does that make you feel? Like how does that make you feel about what I'm selling? So that's how you would talk to those different people. And also, you should also mirror people. Like if you're in like an interview, like face to face, because I would do really well in my job interviews. It was because I was always, mirroring the people I was talking to. Like I wasn't, directly copying exactly what they were doing. Like if they crossed their arms, like I would cross my arms, like I would wait a while, and then I would cross my arms. Or if they're crossing their legs, like I would wait a bunch, and then I would cross my legs. But I wasn't doing it as soon as they were, like they were looking in a funhouse mirror. I was just doing it, after a while. Because I read this book on interviewing, like a lot of interview books, and a lot of them told me that I should, mirror body language to make people like you. Because, people like people that are like themselves. It's just human nature. Because people like to be around other people that are like themselves. It makes a lot of sense. It's not being selfish or anything. That's just how people are. Because people just feel more comfortable when they're around other people like themselves and they feel comfortable with, so that's the reason why. So if you, kind of gravitate yourself, to those different people, and kind of act like they do and talk like they do, then they're going to like you, especially if you're like during a Zoom call and you're trying to, talk to a client to close them on a sale. Then what you do is you would, mirror their speech. Like if they're talking really fast and like you try to talk faster, and then you use words like see, because they're usually will be visual. And if you're trying to sell to someone that's auditory, you should talk at a moderate pace. You just match them where they are, and you should start speaking at a moderate pace as well. And if you're talking to someone that's speaking really, really slow, and it's really you're taking a long time to get their thoughts and feelings out, it's because they're kinesthetic. So you should also use words like, how do you feel about that? Because then they'll more likely like you, because you're using words and you're meeting them where they are, and you're just making them feel more comfortable. So I'll tell you some stories. Like, I went on this job interview, and it was for this healthcare company, and I really wanted the job because they had really great benefits. Like, one of the benefits was being able to go on vacation for a whole month, like a whole month off. Like, that was one of the perks. And you could also just come in whenever you wanted to. Like, you could just work from home too. It was really flexible. So I really wanted the job. So I came in there, and the boss came in the room. Like, first the secretary brought me into the room. And then when the boss came in, I stood up, because standing up shows respect. Like, you should always stand up when someone enters a room, no matter if you're a woman or a man. Like, if someone enters a room, you should stand up to show respect, and then you should go over to them and shake their hand, like, firmly. So I did that, and then I sat down, and I faced them. I turned my body towards them to show my interest, because when you do that, when you turn your body towards somebody else, that makes them like you as well, because it shows respect. It means you're interested in what they have to say. You should also kind of lean in close to them, like super close, where you're like meeting them right in front of their face. Especially, it's good to social distance, because these are the times of COVID. So, but you should just like kind of just lean in a little bit to show your interest, because that your body language portrays that you're interested in what that person has to say, and you think that person, is important, and they also feel important too, that they're being listened to. Like, you don't just back away and kind of look off, like because then they're going to think you're not interested in them, and they'll reflect negatively upon you. So what I did was I kind of leaned in a little bit, and they crossed their legs, so I kind of waited a bit, and then I crossed my legs. It was this really nice guy. He was the director of UX design, because I was a UX designer for 20 years at various companies. So I would go to these different jobs, and I could only stay at a job like 2 years, and I'll be let go. It was like a really volatile workplace, and job, because it was just difficult to stay at one job, because they would put me on different projects, and then I would end up having to leave the project, so that's just what happened at these various jobs. So anyway, this boss, that I was going to be interviewing with, like, he seemed really kind. And I would I crossed my legs when he did, and then when he was I think he might have been Italian, because he was talking with his hands like super fast. I'm not saying that all Italians talk a lot with their hands, but he was, I think he was Italian, because his last name sounded Italian, and he would just talk with his hands he would just really talk a lot with his hands, and I was like, gosh, I wonder if I should do that too. So then I kind of waited a bit, and then I started talking with my hands, and then he smiled, because I think he liked that. And then he was definitely auditory, because he talked in a moderate pace, and he used a lot of words like hear, and listen and stuff like that. So I started using those words too, like hear and listen, and then I started lowering my tone of speech, because his voice wasn't very loud, because I have a very loud voice, and I tend to speak really, really fast, especially when I'm excited, and sometimes I'll end up stuttering, because my mouth can't keep up with my mind, because my mind thinks in pictures. So I started speaking, kind of moderate tone, and lowered my voice, and I used words like listen, and hear, just like he did, and I ended up getting the job. Like, he ended up hiring me on the spot, and it was a pretty good job. It lasted like about a year, and then he ended up leaving, because it was actually a toxic work environment. Like, I didn't know at the time, but it was very toxic. Like, there was an upper manager that was just really demanding, and he wanted all the developers to have their work ASAP. Like, he didn't really give people time to actually finish a project in quality. So he wanted like quantity over quality. So it just wasn't a good work environment. So I ended up not staying there very long. But still, I used my skills doing body language and building rapport to get jobs. You can do the same thing with your clients. Like, if you're at a Zoom call and you're speaking with this client, first you should watch them, and then especially watch their eyes, because if they're very visual, they'll tend to look up when they're processing information. Like, they'll look up because they're looking up in their head, trying to remember images, because that's how they process their thoughts, is with images. So they'll use a lot of words like see. And then somebody that's auditory, they'll tend to look from side to side. Because if you ever looked at President Obama while he's speaking, like he's definitely an auditory, because he always looks side to side, like left to right when he's speaking, because he's trying to determine, how he's hearing, what he's listened to in the past, about a subject. That's how he processes his speech patterns. And definitely somebody that's kinesthetic, they usually will look down when they're talking because they're trying to determine how they're feeling. So watch their eyes when you're on a call with somebody or in a Zoom call. They'll tend to look up, and again, look up if they're visual, look side to side if they're auditory, and look down if they're kinesthetic. It's not that they're not trying to meet your gaze. It's just someone that's kinesthetic. They talk very slow, and they're looking down because they're trying to determine how they're feeling about something, because they work in feelings. So don't think those people are like less smart than you just because they talk slower. They're very, very smart people. It's just that's how they process their feelings. Like that's how they process their thoughts, because they think in feelings, So that's the why. So then you should also use words like how do you feel about this? How do you feel about my program? Do you want to join my program? Like, how do you feel about it? And if somebody is auditory, go, how does that sound? How does my program sound to you? And if someone's visual, say, well, what else do I need to show you? Do you need to see anything else about my program? Like you should use words like that. So it's really simple, and it helps you build rapport with your audience. And if you're trying to email somebody or send an email out to your list, or even write a sales page, you should, ask, like, how does that, how does that sound? How do you feel about that? Can I show you anything else, like in your messaging? Because that would cover everybody that's like looking at your email on your sales page. You should definitely have a lot of visuals on your sales page. Like, that's what I do for my sales pages. I'll put a lot of images and videos. Those are the people that are visual, and the people that are auditory can listen to the videos. And that's why I have a podcast too, because that way I can get people that are more auditory that like to listen. And I also put my podcast on YouTube, because that way I can get people that are visual. And so that's like a way. And then if you're trying to get people that are kinesthetic, you say, how do you feel about that? Like, you write that in your messaging too. So in all those things you could do, all those words, again, it's how does that sound? How do you feel about that? Can I show you anything else? Because that way you would gravitate towards all those people they're different, They have different thought patterns, like visual, kinesthetic, or auditory. So you should cover all those people, and then you're more likely to get a sale, especially in your sales pages and your email, because it can be hard because you don't know who's reading your email. It could be someone auditory, could be someone kinesthetic, or it could be someone visual. You just don't know who's reading your email. So if you cover all your bases in your messaging, you're more likely to get a customer. And you should also maybe hop on a Zoom call. Like, you should do that too. Like, at the end of to close, it's always real good to close with a Zoom call. Like, say you have a high ticket program, it's like $1,000 a month, or $500 a month, like a high ticket price. And these people need to hear some more from you, or see some more, or be shown other things, or they need to determine how they feel about what you're saying. You should say, well, maybe we can hop on a Zoom call, so you can learn more about my program. And then you could watch their eyes, because again, if they're looking up, they're visual. If they're looking side to side, they're auditory. Or if they're looking down, they're kinesthetic. So then you should use words appropriate. So the kinesthetic words would be, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about my program? Auditory, you go, does this sound good to you? Does my program sound like a good fit for you? And if they're visual, you say, can I show you anything else about my program? Maybe I could show you like how it looks. Like, you can open up your membership, for instance. Like, you have a membership, saved on like a course platform like Kajabi or ThriveCart Learn or Thinkific or Teachable, because maybe I can show you a screenshot of how my program looks. You can do that too. So it's definitely a great idea to cover all your bases so you can build rapport with different people. So I really hope that this podcast helped you today. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at beck@mombeach.com, and I'll answer your question if you have anything else. And I also have a membership where I teach my members really cool sales stuff too, and marketing. It's at plrbeach.com/membership, and I'll have a link in the show notes all about my membership and how you can join it. It's a really awesome membership. There's so many really nice group members in it, and I have 2 memberships. One membership is called the PLR Medic Pack. And then with that, you get like a PLR product or commercial use printable product each month. You also get access to all my courses. I have various courses that I've created in the past for the membership. You get access to all those courses. And if you join the Printable Sellers Bootcamp, you get access to group coaching. So we have like group coaching sessions every week on Wednesday at 11 Central Time. We also have a co-working session at 3 o'clock Central Time. So during the co-working session, you can just bring your work in and get help or just chit-chat. And the calls are recorded, so that way if you miss like one of the coaching calls, you can review it later. And I use ThriveCart Learn to host all the calls. So you can just go to your ThriveCart Learn account and review the calls if you get a chance. So I really hope you'll check out my coaching program. You can also do one-on-one coaching with me as well. I have all the links in the show notes. The show notes, again, are mombeach.com/podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Have a great day. Goodbye. Thank you so much for listening to the Becky Beach Show. Please go to mombeach.com/podcast to learn more about my podcast and for show notes. If you want a 2022 free printable goal planner, please go to mombeach.com/subscribe. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Have a great day. Goodbye.